Okay, now the time is come to welcome you all to this webinar, which will be about retting, hackling, and tools for flax preparation. My name is Agneta Karlsson, and I'm working at the Swedish Handicraft Association. And this webinar is a collaboration between our Nordic handicraft organizations. Today, we will be listening to Ulla Ravn and Liis Burk from Denmark, and Ekstedt Bjersing from Sweden, and Liis Burk from Estonia. But first, I will hand over to my colleague, Sara Eriksson.
Yes, hello everyone, and welcome everyone from me too. I'm doing a little bit of the technique in the background, and as you could see on the previous screen, we are recording this webinar. So keep your mics on mute and your videos off during the presentations. After the presentations, there will be time for questions. And this part will not be recorded. And during the presentations, you can write your questions in the chat and we will get back to them afterwards. Yes, and preferably you can write your questions in English in the chat so that everyone can understand them. Yes, that's a little bit about the technique.
Yes. Okay, then I think I will start. So first I will welcome to Ulla and Liis, and they will tell about their experiments and experiences with the retting of flax. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Good evening. And again, the Flax Museum at Krengerup on Fyn in Denmark, we are calling again. And as you have said, Agneta, my name is Liis Burk, and I'm so happy that our expert in retting of flax, I would say, Ulla Ravn, she is sitting beside me. And now I will try to convey her experiences to you. And because Ulla and I, we have followed the sowing of flax, the growing of flax, and especially the retting during the last 4 years when we have been growing flax here at the museum. It has been on areas from 60 to 200 square meters during the last 4 years. Please, can I have the next picture? And you can't emphasize the importance, the correct retting of flax enough, because correct retting of the flax is extremely important. Here you see 2 different bundles of fibers before spinning. The quality of the thread is, of course, it of course depends on the correct retting, where all bark and the stem has been removed in the further process of breaking, scotching, and hackling of the straw. And if you look at the 2 bundles here, you will see that bits of bark is still in the unsuccessful retting. It's very important that everything has been removed there. So please, can I have the next picture? And when you talk about retting, there are 2 kinds of retting, the dew retting and the water retting. And here you notice the different colors of dew and water retting. After we have ripped the capsules from the straw, then you can use dew retting or water retting. Dew retting, it means that the flax straws, they are placed on grass where fungi will start the necessary rotting process. If you use water retting, the straws must be placed in a container where water covers all the straws totally. You must be careful that both the top and the roots, they are covered. And in water retting, bacteria will start the rotting process. And here you see the two methods, and we use both of them. But notice the different colors. Can I have the next picture, please? Dew retting, it takes place on a clean grass field. The straws are placed in a thin layer on the grass with ample room between the rows so that you have room for turning it. You have to turn the straws after 1 week and then again every 5th or 6th day. You can do it by hand or you can use a long stick. And when is the flax then retted enough? That is exactly the question. It is impossible to give a certain number of days. It depends on the temperature and the rainfall. Warm summer days with rain in between gives the fastest result. If you retten in a warm period, you have to check already after 10 days. If you want to check, then you take you take a straw, you try to dry it a bit, and then you break it, and the bark and the stem must fall off easily so that you can peel off the rest of the bark from the fibers. And the fibers must not break. Then it has been retted too much and cannot be used for spinning. At the Flax Museum, we have unfortunately experienced the big calamity that nearly the whole batch of straws from 1 year was spoiled. So therefore, we try to retten our flax in smaller portions. And Ulla, she has noted periods between 12 days in warm periods and up till 4 weeks. Please, the next picture. Here we will show you a bit about water retting. When you retten in water, you must be careful that all the bundles can be covered with water, both top and roots. You can, of course, use a water tap if only you are careful to place maybe stones on top of the flax so that all the flax will be kept down under the water. We use a big water tube, as you see in the picture. But again, be very careful that you stop the retting in time. Although we use cold water, we have experienced that the retting should be stopped after 4 days. Well, the tube was standing in the full sun and the air temperature was about 28 degrees. Usually, the water retting will take from 5 to 14 days. Again, of course, dependent on temperature. Yes, on temperature. Well, can I have a next picture? Because maybe you have not retted the flax enough, and then you can always after retten it. So if you find the flax has not been retted enough, then you can, of course, you find out when you try to break it, you will see that there is still bark and in the fibers, and then you have to try to retten it again. Just a few days more, and again here you must be even more careful. It might be hours that decide if the retting now is enough. And please, a new picture. We have given ourselves the question if we can retten flax all year round. And when is it the best time that retting takes place? In principle, you can retten the flax all year round. Ulla, as you see in the picture to the left, she laid out some flax for retting, maybe a bit late, and suddenly we had snow in November. But it didn't matter. The fibers were very fine and they broke easily with no extra bark. It seems to be more difficult to retten in early spring. We are not quite sure. Maybe it is because the fungi, they have really not started working, or it is simply too cold. But of course, the constant moisture in the grass will retten the straw nevertheless. In our case, we saw that the straw then had a very light color, and that indicates that the straw was really water rettened and not dew rettened. Usually, we retten our flax in September, just after we have harvested it and we have rippled the capsules from the straw. So, a new picture, please. Again, we emphasize the correct retting of flax. We again want to emphasize it. And you see here that careful retting, it gives absolutely the best spinning result. And we will hear, I know we'll hear more about this hackling later, and we look forward to that, of course. And then I think our last picture, please. Well, yes, the growing of flax is not easy. More and more, the more we work with it, the more we understand how difficult it must have been for our foremothers, of course also forefathers, but we find it was really our foremothers' job to find out how the processes they had to take place. So that it would be a success, that the flax was growing, and how much trouble they must have had to give to this part of their busy lives. Here we have been growing flax for 4 years, and every year we find out something new. We have new experiences. This year's retting, it will be very interesting because in the picture you see that the straws from our 3 different fields, they are very, very different. The very tall flax to the left there was really very, very much weeds, and the middle, we think it is the best. We have rettened it already, and we find it gives a good result. The very small bundles you see to the right, we are really very excited to see what result that will give, because maybe it will be the very, very best results. You see that the straws, they are very, very thin, so maybe it will be the best spinning results. And we look forward to see if we can, what will happen now when it has been rettened. We have broken it and all the different processes before we spin it, and when we see the spinning results. So that was what we had to tell you now. So we hope that you had the patience to listen to us to the end. And we thank you for your patience. And we are looking forward to hear about your experiences. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Liis, for this interesting speech. And now we are welcoming Marie Ekstedt Bjersing, master weaver and flax spinner. And she will tell you about the different ways of hackling flax. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you. My name is Marie Ekstedt Bjersing, and I'm a lecturer in textile technology at the Swedish School of Textile in University of Borås. I'm also a master in weaving, and I'm also doing textile research about textile studies and craft. And I'm a flax spinner, and that's why I'm here. Making creates knowledge, and making creates reflections. And making, that is what this lecture is about. Through making, I gain a lot of knowledge. And I've been spinning a lot, and to spin, I also need to hackle and rehackle my flax before spinning. So I will share you some of my experience of hackling flax. But first, I just want to give you some really short context. Of course, we will have differences in the processing of flax, depending if we are having a small scale or large scale harvest of flax. And also depending on where in the country or where in the world you are living. And I often get the question, how much linen yarn will you get and how much tow yarn will you get? And this calculation is made out of industry, and from 1 hectare it will be 6,000 kilos of yarn, and about 50% is linen yarn and 50% tow yarn. And if we change it to small scales, that would be like we would have 0.6 kilos of yarn from 1 square meter flax. But I think it will differ a lot depending on what flax you're growing and how the harvest is going and with the retting and all the parts. It was really nice to listen to the retting before. And I just want you to show you all these steps that I think everyone already know about: harvest, drying, rippling, retting, drying, breaking, scratching, and hackling. And hackling is what I'm going to talk about. And I agree that the importance of retting is so important, but you can, with the retting, save a bad retted yarn. And I will tell you more about that. During these processes, I think it's really important to keep the root even in all steps, because then you will have bundle of flax that will be easy to hackle. The dream is to have the fibers, as I have here to the left, all the fibers the same length and the root at the same place. But the reality can be that the flax has different sizes, and if the root are placed on different places, if they're not even, then it will make it harder during the hackling process. And it will be less too if we have keep the roots even. But why hackling? Yes, the fiber is stitched together like a band. And we want to split them so we can get single fibers. I think we can look at this picture. Here we see the flax straw, just the scattered fibers, and hackles to the right. So we want to split the fiber bands so we can have single fibers. We want to separate long and short fibers. But it's also a cleaning process. And it's also a way of improve the fiber quality. From all straw, we will get different qualities. We will get the long fibers. We will get hackle too in different qualities. And from the step before, we will have scutching too also. And we want all these fiber. And if we separate them, we will be able to spin thinner thread and make many different qualities. I think it's good to be aware of that flax processing is messy. It's best to work outdoors if you can. In the flax, you can have bacteria from rettingen or from fungal from dough retting. I use 2 to 3 different hackles. And if you are working in a small scale, old ones work very well. It doesn't matter if one needle is a little bit broken, it still works well. And if you look at museum and look after old hackles, the most common is these two. The finer one is very rare to see. When I got a streak of flax, I need to be aware how the fiber are in my flax. The dream is that the fibers should be all in the same length, but during the process, maybe the fibers has run away, and maybe the bunches, 2 bunches has put together to one, so the fibers can be in all direction. And the one to the right is a nightmare. You get a bundle of flax and you think you have long fibers, but actually the fibers are in a mess. And why I show this picture is to show you where you should hold your hand during the process of hackling. If we take the sample to the right and I have my hand in the middle, probably I will have a lot of toe because many fibers will not be in my hand. In this first bundle, the dream bundle, there's no problem where I put my hand. When I have a streak of flax that someone else had prepared, it can be good to start to having your hand in the middle to see how the fibers are. And during the hackling process, I want to be in the top of the needles. I will let the flax fall down, and I should never push it down. Just let it fall down, and then I will lift it up again. I'm holding the flax around my index finger, so I'm having have them tight in my hand, so the fibers can't run away. We have a small video here. It just falling down by itself, and I'm taking a new grip so I can have it on my index finger. As you saw in the last video and we'll see here, I'm not taking the flax the whole way. I just take it in the middle part, and then I decide I want to take the last part of the fibers. We'll check how it looks. And now I decided to take away the last part of the flax. Another thing that is important to see is that the flax is falling down, and I have my left hand always in front of the hackle, not over the hackle. We have another. Here you see how I'm lifting the flax. And actually, for every time I put it through the hackle, the fiber will spread out, so it will fall down more and more. You are not allowed to throw the flax, because then the fiber will be twisted and you will have more tow. If I have a lot of flax that I'm going to hackle, then I put the hackle on the table, as I have done here before. If I'm instead having a small amount of flax, then I prefer to have it between my legs. And if I have an apron, it will help me to have it fixed between my knees. And in some, at some old hackles, we can see that they have been used in this way. And the same procedure, the flax will fall down. And if you look at it, it will be, the flax will be wider and wider, so it will fall down more. I can also use a stick that I put in that hole on the hackle if I don't like to have the apron to fix it. And when I'm changing the direction to the other direction, I can take my hand a bit shorter, not in the middle. I can have it more near to the edge. After I have hackled, usually I have 2, maybe 3, but often 2 hackle is enough. Then I use a brush, or if I have a fine hackle, or I can actually use a comb also. If you're looking at literature from 1970s, 1980s, you always see these fine hackles too. But if you look at the tradition, you never see the so fine hackle as this, or they are very rare to see them. The brushes we have here, one is these 2 are old flax brushes, but modern brushes is as good as that. And this is some of the brushes that I use. And if it's a very small amount that I'm going to spin, then I can also use a comb. This is a comb for cat, I think. The question is often, how much should I hackle the flax? If you compare these 2 streaks of flax, you can still, on the one to the left, that the fibers are more sticked together. And here, when I've hackled much more and also brushed the flax, I've got them much, much smoother, softer and cleaner. They are also much, much shiner. So if I want to spin a very thin thread, then I want to have a soft, smooth fiber. So to spin a thin thread, I do a lot of hackling. So I'm assured that I get away with all dust, get away with all short fibers, and that all fibers are soft and smooth. If I have very stiff fibers, they are difficult to spin. And then I use the brush to soften them. Another important aspect is, will you spin indoors or outdoors? Since flax can be dirty, I am more careful and do more hackling if I know I'm going to use the flax indoors, because that's about my health. If I have a stiffer flax that has been under-retted, then I can still use it and then do a lot of more mechanical treatment. And a very good treatment then is to take a brush on the flax and then just push the brush down and draw the flax between the brush and the apron. And then I can make softer fiber, not as soft as if the retting has been correct, but still so soft that I can spin a good yarn. If I'm going to store my flax, I don't do the finest hackling before storage. I wait until I'm going to spin the yarn. So this is some of the flax that I have in my storage. And before I'm going to spin it, I want to rehackle it again. And sometimes if I have a lot of small amounts of different flax, as I have here up to the right, then I can hackle them together so I will get an even quality of these small different amounts. But I'm trying to be taking care of my flax and to storage the different sort so I can differ them. And how to open the strick. Here you can see how I'm working. So I just threw it to my apron and then I could start rehackling. And there will be more too during the rehackling, but it's not so much. And I think it's so important for my health that I will rehackle it so I will get away dust and get the fibers okay. I think you could see on the video that in one part I was throwing the flax and then there were a twist on the flax, and that twist is not so good because then I will get more too. I thought I saw, yes, here I saw a twist on the flax that became. So it's better just letting it falling down. There was that twist that I don't like to have. If I just let it fall down, then it will be no less two in this stage. And I will show you some samples when I'm rehackling before spinning. In this case, I had one strick of 163 grams. And after rehackling, I had about 20% tow. And this was a really old flax, so I wanted it to be sure that it was clean from dust. So for me, it's okay that I will get a little bit more tow, but a cleaner fiber. And you also see that I used the brush. When I opened this strip, it was small bundles in it, and I hackled one of them each before I put it on my distaff. We have another example with another flax that I had 220 grams before rehackling. And this was also a really old flax, so I wanted to have a clean material. I'm working outside, and I also felt this time that this flax was a bit stiff, so I actually went back one stage and took this stångklyfta, who is an old tool for scratching flax. And in this case, it was about 30% tow. If I'm going to spin, I make my distaff at once, and this is how it looks when you have 200 and no, it's not 220, 190 grams of flax. And here is it on my spinning wheel. And after I had spun, I had 120 grams of linen yarn and 70 grams of tow. And in this case, it was only one quality of tow, and there were no, I could use every tow for spinning. But for the linen yarn, the fiber was a bit stiff, and I tried to spin a little bit thinner yarn that the fiber wanted to be. So I had some loose during the spinning. And you always have a bit loose for dust also. Here's another sample, and this fiber has not been hackled, but I feel it has been very well scratched before. It was 229 grams, and I got 3 different qualities of tow. And in this case, I just made smaller strips, and I will store them. The tow I'm spinning outside now, so yeah. I will show you the storage in next picture. But for this flax, I want to spin later during the winter. And during the winter, it will be cold to do hackling outside. So I think it's good that I have prepared the hackling and do the final stage of hackling just before spinning. For the tow, I can spin it at once or I store it. And if I store it, I have a paper bag or I use a textile bag to store it in. When I'm working, I'm using a lot of questions for helping myself to recognize what I want to do. But I also use the question for reading old literature and to see when I'm looking at old videos. And questions that I have before hackling can be like, what is the weather like? How much flax do I need and how much do I have? What tools do I have and what will I need? Where should I store the tool? Will I spin indoors or outdoors? Which stuff will I use? And are there any emotional aspects to consider? I want to work outside, so it's important what the weather is like. And I don't want it to be too dry, too wet during the hackling. So I avoid doing it a rainy day. And if it's a rainy day, I maybe take the shoes just to hackle what I need and nothing else like that. I have shown you two different ways to put the hackle on a table or between your knees, and that also depending on how much flax I will hackle. And I use different tools, and sometimes I need to think like this flax, I think I need to have I want to have a finer hackling, so I want to use all my 3 different hackles, or it could just be enough with one. It's also good to know where I should store the tool, especially when it's a bit colder outside, because I don't want to throw the tool on the floor. If I will be do my spinning indoors, I always make more hackling compared when I make it outdoors. Because I don't need to hackle so much, I can spin a yarn with the fibers that are not so much hackled. But the hackle will make the fibers cleaner, more separate, and softer and smoother. And I also need to know what the stuff I will use. And I need to know that when I'm because I want to prepare the stuff. When I'm finished with the hackle, I want to prepare it at once. Sometimes I also have emotional aspects, like I have flax from a different part of Sweden, and then I think it's nice to use tools from that part too. Last year, I wrote an article about my thoughts about hackling flax or about rehackling flax before spinning, using questions as a method to understand. And this article you can find on the links here, and together with the article, I made a performance, and that performance, it's about 20 minutes, and that you can also see me hackling. And with that, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you. It was very interesting. And we leave the questions afterwards. And now I say welcome to Liis Burk, craft master, and she also works at the Estonian Craft Organization. She will tell you how to renew old tools and build new ones for flax preparation. Welcome, Liis.
Thank you. As we also, as members of Nordic Craft Association, we took part in our common flax project, 1 square meter of linen in 2021. And we got really into it. So we had a quite big project all over Estonia. So we needed tools. But we didn't have any aim of how to, what to. So in our Folk Art and Craft Union of Estonia, we asked Margit Pensa to be a specialist and a helper in that project. So at first, to get to know more about which tools at all do we need, so we went through some museum pictures. And here is a picture of ripping off the seeds at first. Then after retting, there is a picture of one village all together using leads to break the roots, not the roots, but the plants of flax. And then there was swingling, and here is also another more bigger mechanical wheel of swords that were used, and hackling and spinning. And all these pictures made us feel like it's something really old that was possible to do only in some old times. So all the tools were in museums, and usually in the museums, if you go there, you cannot touch anything, and everything is just to see, not to use. So to go through all the procedure that you need to have ready-made flax to linen. So we started to think that how to have new tools that we can use now in practice, so we don't so we could use them as much as needed, because in some museums, yes, they let you use for a moment, but not for the whole procedure. So our first experience is that you could use old tools. The antique shops are full of old wood doesn't survive that good as metal. And with the help of different masters who are working with metal, we renewed and rebuilt many old tools. So our experience was, at one side, we rebuilt and renewed old tools that we could get from markets that we found. Here is the ripple that we attached to some benches or whatever where we could, and we tried different ones. And also from the museums, we found different ones. This has like a wooden stick in the back, but then there were another ones who were already attached to a wooden bench that was lying on the ground already. Here is a picture of in a procedure where they were building us new tools and renewing the old ones already. And this lead that you can see here is new, self-made, and we already thought of that we want to bring it along in a car in several places. So we needed it to be in that that enough big to work with, to use it hard, but in the same time that it can go into a car, so we can bring it. So this this lead that you can see on that picture has moved all over Estonia in different islands and everywhere where we have made our practical flax days. So it has helped us a lot. Here is some pictures making of the ones who can see that this is that kind of wooden material that won't work. So I didn't get the pictures making of the right lead that you saw already, but this is the same technique. So the man who made us that used tools and the technique the way as it used to be in old times. So they took down a tree and they took it into two parts in the woods already. So they cut it apart from the middle And this is actually, in the end, this is an upper and down part of the leads. It comes from the one and the same part of the tree. And it's made of birch. This here is a wrong one, so you know. So in here, you can see that this is big enough that you can stand properly to use it, but in the same time, you can just take it along and move wherever it's needed. This is a picture of another lead that's built in nowadays. It's a bit smaller and used it in farm that they are growing flax and showing children how to make flax into linen. The whole procedure. They even have camps, and we're really thankful for them for their work. Here is the next procedure, and on this picture, here is used old wooden swords for the swingling procedure. But this is possible to make one of your own. I step one picture back so you can see the shape of the wooden sword. So all over Estonia, they have different shapes. In southern Estonia, these are usually bigger and more. They have bigger corners and bigger areas for swingling. And in northern Estonia, they look more sword-like as metal swords. And many people who have made them themselves, the wooden swords, has taken the idea and the shape from the museum pictures that they can find. And this is also made out of one piece of wood, and you have to take it proper way. And the tools to make one is saw and axe and knives. So this here is only a small example of the work technique. Here is made a spoon, but the technique of make the wood thinner is the same way with an axe. So you just cut it, the layers off from the wood itself. And the last shape you give with a knife. In here there is a two small sword. This is not for swingling. This is for making belts. But this is a good picture to show the procedure itself. And here is another bigger sword that is new, made 1 year ago. So we have good experience also in using the museum tools and also new tools that are made in the same technique, but today. And here you can see that many of the tools and the swords have patterns on it. It's not useful for better work or anything, but it is for protection, because every tool and everything you have gives you some more strength or something. And another thing is that these swords were made as presents from men, boys to girls, to show that they are good in crafts. And today men bring flowers, then they brought nice tools. Life was a bit more practical. We went to Transylvania a few weeks ago, and I was happy to see that quite far from Nordic countries and then also Estonia, the tools were quite the same kinds. This heckling comb is just as we have all seen in Estonia. On this picture, we had a practical flax day in one museum, and these tools in here, few of them are parts lended from the museum, but one hackling comb is renewed, old one. So this is actually a really good tool that can survive a long time. So help yourself and go to some antique shops and second-hand shops, and whenever you could find one, take one along, because you can still use it for very long time. So here, spinning. If you have made all the procedures needed to make plant of flax into a ready-made material for spinning, then you need a spinning wheel. And there is possible to buy totally new ones, which are many, in many occasions, they are a bit more even practical than the old ones. But we really love thinking this way, that it is possible to make old tools work again. So we have had several camps and courses where we learn how to make old spinning wheels work again. So it is possible to buy new ones, but we really suggest that find your grandparents' houses and different places, and maybe you can use again and put life in your old spinning wheels. Parts of the spinning wheels are distaffs. All in here are copies of museum ones. So on the first one, you could even see the date 1896. For everyday work, you don't need them be so beautifully covered and carved. All these in here has been wedding presents. So part of working with flax has actually much more symbols and ideas around it. So these old distaffs have been present to someone in some old times. This here is a new one. So it is possible again to make it in nowadays. The tools are quite the same, and you can put your whole story in one. And when you work with it later, you definitely feel even more special. But if you cannot use or you don't have a spinning wheel, then you can spin with the spindle that drops down. This is a really big topic to go into separately, because there is so many different kind of them. But one thing is that to spin flax or these long that you have to have a long yarn before you can attach it in there. So it has to be really, it cannot be light. So that's why down there is a piece of stone that makes it harder and that it goes down quicker. But one thing, if you don't have any special tool to spin, then on this picture, people are spinning flax with only a small wooden stick, or you could even use a pencil. This is really slow if you compare it to spinning with spinning wheel. But this case, if you're not used to that work yet, you can control the yarn that comes much more easily. You just twist it in your hand, and the twists goes on the flax, and you pull it and then put it on the like roll it on that stick, and then take another like 10 centimeters of loose flax and you just twist it, and this way it's slow, but you could get a really good yarn out of that. And not only flax, but wool, hemp, whatever you have, you can spin this easy way. These are some pictures also from Transylvania. We were in one museum, and I really wanted to put these pictures also in here because I quickly understand that this is something to do with flax or hemp or something, but we have never seen that kind of tool in Estonia. So we asked that what it is. It looks like kind of lead that you could pull it up, but down here were small holes inside. And actually, that was tool to press oil out of seeds of hemp or flax. So another part of that great plant that you could use, and in that area they made much more oil. So there were many tools like this, but I haven't seen kind of like this in Estonia, and I haven't met anything like that in other Nordic countries, but I haven't been looking too much. So for the last picture, as I said earlier already, we have had many practical days, and in here you can see that there is together people in very different ages, and we are really happy that we have had such good emotions throughout all these years when we have had the experience with working with flax, and so many people have gathered around us now, and it has grown into a big thing in Estonia. So we are really happy of all that webinars and everything that these Nordic countries are doing together in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Liis, for this speech. It was very interesting. And I'm also happy for the collaboration with the Nordic countries in this. So thank you, everyone.